morning, people and brethren. We are now on Isaiah chapters 27 to 31. Reading the redemption of Israel from chapter 27 verse 1. In that day Yahweh with his sore and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Verse 6. He shall cause them that come to Jacob to take root. Israel shall blossom and bud and fill the face of the world with fruit. These prophecies are repeated by other prophets, yet when they are fulfilled, the fruit think they are the tree, such as it says in Romans chapter 11 verse 18. Isaiah chapters 37 and 31 adds, and the remnant that is escaped of the house of Judah shall again take root downwards and bear fruit upwards. Hosea 14:5 puts it this way, I will be as the dew unto Israel. He shall grow as the lily, and cast forth his roots as Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his beauty shall be as the olive tree, and his smell as Lebanon. Romans chapter 11 verse 18 talks about certain Gentiles who think that they have replaced Israel. And it says, boast not against the branches, for if thou boast, thou bearest not the root, but the root thee. Thou wilt say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high-minded, but fair. For if God spared not the natural branches, take heed lest he also spare not thee. So in Romans 11, those verses dealing with the grafting in, there are three groups. There is the olive tree, who is Judah in this case. The branches, who are Israel, who are broken off for the unbelief and sinning. And then the fruits that will come as a part of their returning, which is the natural Gentiles.
Another aspect, or one aspect of the fruit, is the increase in numbers of the Jews, similar to God's promise to Abraham and Isaac that their descendants will increase in number. And yet another one is a conversion of Gentiles to Yahweh, the God of the Jews. However,
or the Christians we call it today, the fruit has not replaced the tree. So we should not interpret Romans 11 that Christians have replaced God's people. Continuing from verse 9. By this, therefore, shall the iniquity of Jacob be purged, and this is all the fruit. And this is all the fruit to take away his sin, when he maketh all the stones of the altars as chalk stones that are beaten in sunder. The groves and the images shall not stand up. Verse 12. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahweh shall beat off from the channel of the river unto the stream of Egypt, and you shall be gathered one by one, O you children of Israel. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great trumpet shall be blown, and they shall come which were ready to perish in the land of Assyria, and the outcasts in the land of Egypt, and shall worship Yahweh in the holy mount in Jerusalem. So sometimes when the word Israel is used, it refers to the 10 tribes that were scattered, and other times it refers to the whole 12 tribes, including the tribes of Judah. So we have to be careful and note that don't take Israel to always mean the 12 tribes. Continuing from chapters 28, judgment of Ephraim and Jerusalem, which is the northern kingdom. Verse 1. Woe to the crown of pride, to the drunkards of Ephraim, whose glorious beauty is a fading flower, which are on the head of the fat valleys, of them that are overcome with wine. Behold, the Lord hath a mighty and strong one, which is a tempest of hail and a destroying storm, as a flood of mighty waters overflowing shall cast down to the earth with the hand. Verse 9. Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk, and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people. Modern day tongue speakers totally misunderstand Corinthians 14, thinking it is a New Testament manifestation. Paul was not encouraging it, but rebuking, calling their understanding childish. Verse 20 he says, Brethren, be not children in understanding, howbeit in malice be ye children, but in understanding be ye men. Verse 21, In the law it is written, With men of other tongues and other lips will I speak unto this people. And we just read it saying in Isaiah, and it's told you to whom this speaking will be, to this people, Israel and Judah. So the New Testament, Corinthians 14, tongue speaking, which happened in Acts chapters 2, was nothing to do with everybody, or especially Christians, non-believers, being able to speak in tongues. That was an interpretation of the 20th century by gentlemen called Charles Parham and Agnes Moorehead. Do your reading up and you'll see they are the ones who created this modern day tongue speaking. And so when it says it is written, and then it carries on, and yet for all that will they not hear me, saith the Lord. So again you see it is a prophecy that was being fulfilled. Continue from 28 verse 14. Wherefore, hear the word of Yahweh, you scornful men, that rule this people which is in Jerusalem. Because you have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come to us, for we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh God, Behold, I lay a Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet, and the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then you shall be trodden down by it. Again, some of these verses speaking of the Messiah coming and things he will do. For verse 16, see Matthew chapters 21 verse 42, Acts chapters 4 verse 11, Romans 9 33 and 10 verse 11, Ephesians chapters 2 verse 20, and 1 Peter chapters 2 verses 6 to 8. Continuing from chapter 29, the siege of Jerusalem. Reading from verse 1. Woe to Ariel, the city where David dwelt. Add you year to year, let them kill sacrifices. Yet I will distress Ariel, and there shall be heaviness and sorrow, and it shall be unto me as Ariel. And I will camp against thee round about, and will lay siege against thee with a mount, and I will raise forts against thee. Thou shalt be visited, verse 26, thou shalt be visited of Yahweh, the God of hosts, with thunder, with earthquake, and with great noise, with storm and tempest, and the flames of devouring fire. Verse 7, and the multitude of all the nations that fight against Ariel, in all that fight against her and her munition, and that distress her, shall be as a dream of a night vision. It shall even be as when an hungry man dreameth, and behold, he eateth, but he awaketh, and his soul is empty. Or as when a thirsty man dreameth, and behold, he drinketh, but he waketh, and behold, he is faint, and his soul have appetite. So shall the multitude of all the nations be that fight against Mount Zion. Verse 13. Wherefore Yahweh said, for as much as this people draw near me with their mouth, and with their lips do honour me, but have removed their hearts far from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precepts of men, they also in spirit shall come to understanding, and they that murmured shall learn doctrine. And we remember Yeshua quote some of these verses, how people today say they follow God and are godly, but yet do not keep his commandments, but precepts of men. In their words, i.e. their lips and their singing, they think they're honouring God, but in their actions, obedience, they are not. Continue from chapter 30, verse 1. Woe to the rebellious children, saith Yahweh, that take counsel, but not of me, and that cover with a covering, but not of my spirit, that they may add sin to sin, that walk to go down into Egypt, and have not asked at my mouth, to strengthen themselves in the strength of Pharaoh, and to trust in the shadow of Egypt. Therefore shall the strength of Pharaoh be your shame, and the trust in the shadow of Egypt your confusion. My comment: seekers of God today are going to the world, biblical Egypt, to find satisfaction and help for their problems, rather than turning to obeying God's directives, through which he says he will give them blessings. Today people are going after money and they think just like money is used in the world to buy things, they bring the same attitude and money to buying God's blessings, believe in prosperity sermons and already sown a seed to get God's blessings. God's blessings is by obedience. Continue from chapter 30 verse 9. That this is a rebellious people, lying children that will not hear the law of Yahweh, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. So in other words, like they are saved at baptism, rather than being called to the promise of being saved on Judgment Day, if they obey the commandments and endure to the end. So they want to hear deceits and smooth things. I'm saved, and they are not saved, because the condition of being saved is a futuristic thing if you endure to the end and keep God's commandments. So they think they are saved now without the need to obey. Keep obeying and repenting if and when they sin or slip up. That is the criteria to be saved. Continue from chapter 30 verse 11. Get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us. Wherefore thus saith the Holy One of Israel, because ye despise this word, and trust in oppression and perverseness, and stay thereon, therefore this iniquity shall be to you as a breach ready to fall, swelling out in a high wall, whose breaking cometh sudden at an instant. Verse 18. Yahweh will be gracious, and therefore will Yahweh wait, that he may be gracious unto you, and therefore will he be exalted, that he may have mercy upon you. For Yahweh is a God of judgment. Blessed are all they that wait on him. So the bottom line of this story is people are turning to other ways of feeling gratified and gratitude and being comforted, rather than being comforted through the words of God and obeying God. Last one today, chapter 31 verse 1. Woe to them that go down to Egypt for help, and stay on horses, and trust in chariots, because they are many, and in horsemen, because they are very strong. But they look not unto the Holy One of Israel, neither seek the Lord. Yet he also is wise, and I will bring evil, and will not call back his words, but will arise against the house of the evildoers, against the help of them that work iniquity. Now the Egyptians are men, and not God, and their horses are flesh, and not spirit. When Yahweh shall stretch out his hand, both he that helpeth shall fall, and he that is helped shall fall down, and they all shall fail together. Verse 16. Turn you unto him from whom the children of Israel have deeply revolted. For in that day every man shall cast away his idols of silver, and his idols of gold, which your own hands have made unto you for a sin. So people are turning to the wrong people for teachings and leadership. The blind leading the blind, so all the help and those being helped will all perish or fall into ditch, as God is saying. Idols are anything or person that keeps you from worshipping God, as and when he stipulates in his commandments. It may be a grand church, the pastor's teachings, who you place above the written commandments found in your Bible, the created traditions of men, worship music, friends in your church, or position you have. All the things possible in your church, not necessarily outside of it, that are keeping you from obeying God. Shalom until tomorrow.